going back towards defence, like box-to-box midfielder, which is where I think he excels. I mean, he's a magnificent player. Now, I don't, unless he gives context about being on a tightrope, I'm not entirely clear on that. But what I do know is in this close season last summer,
Mm.
undoubtedly I read that the club, for whatever reason, wanted to offload him. I mean, they were listing a number of players who they were going to get rid of, and I couldn't believe it when they said that Bruno Fernandes was one of those players. Now, the only thing I would say to that is it may be. We know Sir Jim Ratcliffe was offloading a lot of not just players but other workers. I mean, hundreds of jobs he got rid of because of the financial situation, whatever that may have been. So it probably was to do with Fernandes' salary, his wages there, which are probably enormous. And then, and interesting, so I did read that they wanted him to go. And so when the season started and everything seemed to be the same with him, I thought that's good. They would have been foolish to get rid of him,
Mm.
assuming there's not massive financial problems. So he's still been playing. And then I read yesterday, I think it was only yesterday, that another player, and I didn't see who'd said it, but another player has said it's strange because they wanted to get rid of Bruno in the summer. Now that I thought, yeah, that chimes with what I remember, that they wanted to offload him. And I think this thing I read yesterday said in doing that, it would save them, and plus one or two other players, it would save them millions off of their salary bill. So that side of it probably was why I read in the summer that the club wanted to offload him. But to offload arguably their best player, albeit he's on a high salary, may not have been the most forward-thinking thing to do. So to come to your question about being on a tightrope, whether he means that he's not sure whether he's going to be kept there, that his future is there. Does he want it there? I mean, we know that I think some Saudi clubs are lined up to take him if and when the moment arises, and he'll no doubt, I imagine, he'll take it with open arms because they'll pay him an absolute fortune, as they do some of these other players who've gone there. And
Mm.
I think he will be a loss to to British football, to the Premier League.
Mm.
I think he's a master at work. To watch him play football, I describe him as like a painter. He's a master craftsman. Most of his touches on the ball are just that. They are masterful. So I think he'll be a loss if and when he goes. But when we hear these things, I suspect the writing is on the wall and he will
Mm.
be off at some stage, perhaps in January even.
Yeah. Well, I hope not. Well, I did at first. I did I did want him gone. I believe I've said
Why
it
was
before.
that? Why
Well,
did you want him gone?
it was just because of poor performance, I just thought, well, you're not really having an impact. If you're that good a player, we ought to see the impact of your contribution to on the fit on the pitch. And it was just bad result after bad result, and I thought, get rid of him.
I'm
But
surprised.
now, yeah, I know. So it was a mistake on my part as well, and I admit it. So now I read that and I thought, oh no, why? But anyway, I hope he stays. We'll talk about him a little bit more. But Kobe Mainu, I believe we talked about him on the
Yeah.
on the last two shows about him being in limbo. Now, the brother was spotted wearing a an inscription on the shirt that he was wearing. This is Kobe Mainoo's brother, saying "Free Kobe Mainu." Now, is it doing him a disservice? Do we think? Do we
Mm.
think?
Well, on the face of it, yes. I mean, we probably don't know the full facts, but
Oh,
we know he did play for England. If you go back probably a year or so, or maybe a bit
Yeah.
less. He was a regular at Manchester United, regular starter, and let's face it, a young player with a lot of potential. He was good enough to be, excuse me, selected for England, quite justifiably, in my opinion. And then he seemed to fall right out of favour, and therefore he's not going to get an international call up if he's not playing regularly for the team.
Mm,
Now I don't know. He played the other night, and whether they now or whether dRem sees him in a different light.
mm,
Maybe the brother was presumably thinking, well, he's trapped really because they're not prepared to sell him at this stage,
no.
or they can't anyway at the moment outside of the windows. And he's not getting regular football, and yet he's good enough to be
Mm,
starting with the team, certainly Manchester United and previously England. So I
mm,
imagine that's what the brother had in mind. As to whether it's a sensible or wise thing to do is another question. I would suggest not, because it's always better to deal with these things internally.
mm,
The player should go to, as he probably does, go to the
mm,
management and express his feelings about it. And we saw the
mm,
effect if a player goes public with his concerns, like Mo Salah did, it can
mm,
rebound on them quite badly. So, yeah, because I saw him playing the other night, I think maybe he's back in favour.
mm.
Maybe it's because he's obviously had a haircut, which for some reason I noticed. His hair used to be a bit longer and unruly, but it was a nice short back and side. So
Yeah.
maybe that gives an impression to some managers of efficiency and clarity of thought on the football field. I don't know, but it's obviously irrelevant to the point I'm really trying to make. I think he's a very good player, and I think again we're talking about Bruno possibly going. If they offload someone like Kobe Mainoo as well, then they could possibly throw the baby out with the bathwater, as teams
Mm,
sometimes do.
mm,
So yeah, I would, again, to answer the specific question, it might bring something to the attention of the owners of the chairman, but is
mm,
that the way to do it? Who knows? If it works out for him one way or
mm.
another, then yeah, maybe it was a good thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, his brother, his family members can say whatever they like. It's if he gets involved, and according to this article, he's then shared it on social media, which is, implicating himself or
Yeah.
complicating matters as you'd have it. And here's Amorim's response. Amorim says, I